Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
50 hours from kickoff right now. 50 hours, we'll know. At least we'll start today.
Jason, slow clap going. Let's go.
Yeah, that's it.
Come on.
We're going to be here
Slow
for 50
clap.
hours, slowly clapping it down.
You're doing it wrong. You got to act like you're in Brazil with blowtorches at a soccer game and it's overhead. Yeah.
Let me guess, you watched that on YouTube.
Yeah, I probably saw that on YouTube because I ain't going to no soccer matches.
Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. It's Friday. That means you get 90 minutes here, 30 minutes on WKYC. That starts at 12:30, as Mikey McNuggets likes to call it. Never before seen Browns content. That's a fact.
True. We run nothing back.
Welcome to the show. Busy show today. In our 90 minutes, we're going to look at all kinds of things Browns-Bears related, try to figure out who has the advantage in this matchup. Also, we're going to talk about a Bears defender that you probably don't know but should, and you likely will after Sunday's game. Good morning, gentlemen. Anything you want to get off your chest to start? First of all, what about last night? How'd it go?
Beautiful.
Wait. Before we do that, I want to show you guys, because yesterday was a smashing success.
Good.
I want to show you the worst fail you've seen in a long time. Anthony's going to get it on tag board in 1 sec. I sent it to him at 7 o'clock this morning. It's still not in tag board till right now.
The worst fail?
He didn't tell me to put it in.
This is the worst fail you've ever seen, and I want to counterbalance how bad this fail is with how successful last night's live show was.
Ever.
This is as bad as you've ever seen. Anthony, how much longer?
What happened?
Okay, we got it. Are you ready? Steve, just play this full. No context needed.
What the heck happened?
I saw this.
Oh my gosh.
Where was that?
The San Antonio Spurs game last night.
How many does he has to make?
Okay, this is the first time that man's ever touched a basketball.
Watch it one more time.
My God.
I saw this as a meme of something about Brandon Staley trying to coach.
My goodness. Is this a brother out here?
No. You going to revoke his card?
I'm looking. I need to check.
Oh, no, they took his card immediately after.
Oh, my God. What was that?
We might have to
Did
put
he ever
a
make
trade
one?
request in.
It cuts off. I don't know if he ever made one.
He
I'm
must
guessing
have
he
been.
made the next one.
That's right.
If
Cut it
you're
off.
that guy, why did you agree to do that?
He's probably drawn at random to win a prize.
If I was that bad, I would not agree
I would
to
never
ever be
have agreed
seen
to
by
do that.
public.
He probably didn't know
playing
he was that
basketball.
bad until that moment. Looks like he's never
I
touched
mean,
a basketball.
How
Yeah,
hard
right.
could this be?
All right,
I'm not even that
Never
bad.
touched a basketball in his life.
Jay,
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not even that bad, bro.
Because you have often said you're the only black man who cannot dribble a basketball between your legs.
Yeah, that whole Allen Iverson thing.
You're not the only one.
Man, if I see you, anytime a man start off by dribbling with two hands and
Yeah.
they go to one,
That's a bad look
and
right
they
away.
pat the ball like this, and then they can't gather themselves. That was bad.
I call it the patty cake dribble.
Yeah,
When you're doing this, you're not on my team.
no.
And I'm guarding you.
Back then, see, I don't understand. Back then, when there used to be playground basketball, there was a chance you didn't get picked up. Who cares if you had winners? If you can't play,
You're out.
we're skipping right over you. And then they were like, you know what? Let's just get rid of all the bad people. We're just going to go to AAU. And we're never going to play with you fair weather guys. So they systematically got rid of all novice basketball players.
There's still street schoolyard basketball.
No.
In New York, there is. There must be here, too.
Again, Bull. Again.
Yeah.
You live in New York.
Well, I did.
You now
It
live
was a
in
long
Cleveland.
time ago.
I drive by blocks and blocks.
There's no schoolyard basketball?
Of empty basketball
Oh,
games.
yeah.
I
that's a fact.
co-sign that, G.
You know
I
why?
co-sign that.
They're all on YouTube.
Well, yeah.
They're all on video games.
My son plays at recess. They still play basketball.
That's-
Actually, he
yeah.
doesn't have recess anymore, but last year they had. Last year they had.
Recess, no
crazy.
good. We're going to take that away. It's my favorite class.
I know,
It's
right?
the only reason I went to school. Now they take it away.
McNuggets, now they go do private runs.
All
That's
right,
the private
so
run.
that was the
that
bad.
was the fail. Last night, smashing success.
Yeah. Bull,
Did
you wanna
everybody
start?
that came out get 2 free Cavs tickets?
I didn't hear anything against that, so yeah, I think so.
They may have got
So-
those tickets.
That had nothing to do with us, so yeah.
They
it
was
the-
super
it was the
excited.
Cavs.
That's phenomenal.
It was a great event, guys. Everybody was there. We had so much fun. We met a lot of fans that were very excited to meet everybody.
What was the crowd like? What are we talking? Thousands?
No, there's not
Uh,
even.
max
It's
max
not even big
capacity in the
enough.
facility was 300.
Oh, so we're in a small space.
But it
Yeah.
was spread
Space,
out
but
though. It's nice
yeah.
in there.
I mean,
It's
there was
really
a lot
nice.
of people. I don't know what they normally have on a Thursday night when there's a Monsters game going on, but I got to
Right.
imagine that was a pretty good crowd for a
The
Thursday night.
Caesars reps
Monsters
told
game.
us that they were. It was bigger draw than they expected.
Wow, well,
Yeah.
that's always a win.
There was a lot of people there.
What about, now what was the show like? Were you talking about the Cavs? Were you talking about the Monsters?
In the fourth quarter, we did Cavs.
Okay.
For the other 2 hours and 25 minutes, we did fan questions. We were talking
Right.
Browns. We
Just
were
a
telling
general show.
stories.
We were making
Just kind
fun
of,
of
a show.
each
Yeah, had some
other.
fun.
We were
well,
talking
I
about-
mean, that's a given.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
were talking-
gave away-
somebody asked us who would play us in the movie.
Who did you say?
For myself, I said John Goodman.
I said Matthew McConaughey.
Even though he's a little
clearly.
old.
That's interesting. Matthew McConaughey.
Who
I
did
can
we end
see
up
it.
saying for Jay? I can't remember.
Wait,
I thought Jay. I told Jay he would want Matthew McConaughey.
Right, that's right.
no, guys, you don't know me. I'm playing myself. Come on. I mean,
should have known
you guys
this
have
guy.
known me for 2 years
That's
at least.
true.
Yeah.
Come on.
Fair
I think
point,
Skip
fair
Bayless would play Jay.
We
Drip Bayless.
Yeah, that's crazy.
we said
His alter ego.
I said that Tyvus would be played by what's his name, Jaleel White, Urkel,
Bro.
and Tyvus lost his mind.
he
Oh,
just did
wow.
not
Yeah,
like-
that's kind of a low blow.
He said Denzel.
That's kind of a low
Black-
blow.
and-
Wait,
Yeah,
Earl
Tyvus-
said Denzel.
Yeah,
Tyvus
said
said
Denzel.
Oh, Tyvus. Of
I
course
said
he did.
Earl would be played by a young Lawrence Fishburne.
You can't get that off. I don't
Who's the
understand how
guy?
you get it.
I think this would be a good bull. Who's the guy? Is Zach Galifianakis
Yeah.
from Hangover?
Yeah.
No, I don't like that guy.
You don't like him? He's a
No.
great
He's
funny.
actor.
He's fantastic, but he's not my kind of humor. He's a different kind of humor.
Okay.
I like him.
We found out Bull didn't know who Andy Milonakis was.
I have
'cause
no
all
idea.
that-
that
That
is.
dude was a sensation.
I said he should be Anthony.
You know, when he was at the height of his fame, he was like 30, but he looked 14.
Yeah,
Who is? Do you know who this guy is?
No, what's his
I have
name?
no clue who this guy
Oh,
is.
man.
Andy
Come
Miller.
on.
He was
I don't
was
know.
kind of really, if you think about it, the first viral superstar.
Yes.
Well, that's why I don't
Yeah.
like it.
I think he was.
Bull asked, "Where's he from?" And we're like, "The Andy Milonakis show." And I was
Oh,
like, "That's
that
not
show.
true."
I'm
Bull's
telling
not
you,
true.
it was so stupid, it was hilarious.
Yes.
And I like that kind
The
of humor
bad
to begin
grandpa,
with.
the bad grandpa was crazy. Like,
he had all kinds of recurring skits.
Man.
Do you remember another one that I think might have been one of the first kind of viral YouTube stars? Was the guy that would go around people and he would ask them. He had one question that he would keep reiterating. He would go do like man on the street videos, and he would keep asking the same question over and over. Now I can't think of it, so the joke's dead. But he was big too. I know it's horrible.
I was waiting for the
He was-
punch.
he was-
I was
know
waiting
you'll
for the
know him.
punch.
If I could think of it, you would know him.
Yeah.
But he was. I think he was a Philly guy, and he was another one like Andy, who was just sort of.
And what
grew out of
happened
the
to Andy
internet.
Milonakis?
He got old.
According to the chat, he's a Twitch streamer now.
He is still big. He had a niche, sort of a niche crowd
Yeah.
that followed him platform to platform. But at one point, someone told me he was a very healthy millionaire, like in the
Good for him.
multi millions.
There was one family that joined us.
Shout out to the 419s. Evan
Yeah,
and his entire
Evan 419, his
family came
entire
down.
family was there. They
entire
and they lived
family?
by
Okay.
Sandusky.
Okay.
Good Lord.
Norwalk. I mean,
Norwalk, and they were really cool. They were all super cool. Like
Yeah,
his
Norwalk's
parents were cool.
15 minutes or so away. It's not that far from Cleveland, really. I mean, it's probably
No.
45 minutes.
I almost forgot.
They
Yesterday,
give out makeup too.
Yesterday, I debuted my skin cosmetic line, Bush Line Beauty.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the 419. The
Wait, I
ladies,
thought you had that.
No,
already.
but I'm dropping it now. What I'm doing is I'm giving
were
it out to the
testing it
people.
before.
Test market right now.
I got
I gave it to the 419s.
Yeah.
I told them holler at me. There's a lot of people.
He also, G. Bush was also trying to play matchmaker last night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Listen,
We'll be
the
back
bar-
in
It was a
2
fun
and 2.
show.
the
It was a really
barbershop
fun
gear.
show.
And by the way, if you're a lady out there, you have a lady out there, a daughter, and you want to try Bushline Beauty, just hit me up at gbush91@hotmail.com, and I'll send you a test supply, and you tell me how you like it.
Now, let me ask you a question on that, because somebody asked me once, is it true that you have a makeup line?
Yes.
And I said, it is true.
Yeah.
And I said, it's also true that I think he either records or watches makeup tutorial videos.
Yes.
And they thought that I was lying about that, too.
No.
So how did this become a passion of yours?
Well, I was doing lighting for, like, I do YouTube videos, right?
Yeah.
And I got obsessed with lighting. So I couldn't get any of my lighting right. I couldn't find the shadows right. It just looked really JV. It looked like terrible. So what I started doing is watching makeup tutorials because they had the best lighting because you need to see their faces. So I would watch all their makeup tutorials, and I was like, this is kind of crazy. I wonder what my wife let me do her makeup. And
So you asked wifey, can I do a makeup makeover on you?
Yeah.
How did that go over? Did you immediately duck?
No, it worked. Like, we went and bought some different stuff. I got the pictures or whatever. I took them.
Wow.
And infamously, I said with my last wife, I told her, I said, man, your eyebrows are C+. C+ eyebrows. You gotta do
They were on
something
fleek.
They were C. I was like,
Not surprisingly, they got divorced soon
I was
after.
going to say, that's why that's your
but
wife.
That was where the beginning of the end
But
occurred.
she let me do her eyebrows,
Yeah.
and they got to A-. She was.
When you say do, like, what do you mean by that?
Well,
how do you do your eyebrows?
So basically, you have you have the mascara, you have the eyeliner, you got to shadow it up underneath. Maybe you want a smoky eye or whatever. And the best thing, you got to have it tapered. Sometimes, and if you're a woman, sometimes you have to pluck the ends, and get rid of them. Some people get them tattooed, but either way.
Here's what's beautiful about that. You also know about zone coverage.
Yeah.
It's like, typically the two don't intermingle. But
G. Bush is literally, I'm not exaggerating, the most unique person I've ever met in my life.
I think that's fair.
Right? I mean,
he's a Renaissance man.
He is truly a Renaissance man.
Yeah.
He has a million interests, things that you would never
You go
guess.
to anime, you go to science fiction.
Right.
You go to
Strange.
novels.
Space.
Slightly strange.
He's got it all covered. G. Bush, the most interesting man in the
He
world.
is.
We do need
There's
a
no
commercial line with
Yeah.
you as the most interesting man in the
I
world.
like that. I got to be able to take my shirt off, though.
We're gonna get into
Facts,
we're gonna
right?
dive into some sports. If you
my
did miss
God.
the show last night, it's on our YouTube page. We also interviewed Larry Nance Sr. and Ahmad Crump from the Cavs, so check it out. Two really
Nice.
good interviews.
Nice.
Our first topic of the day today, though, guys, is whether or not the Bears are a good football team. And our first topic, as always, is brought to us by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay red hot on FanDuel. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is simple to use, and you can bet on literally anything, from spreads to player props and over-unders and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And today's winning ticket comes from Joshua Heisler, who cashed out on a Devontae Adams three-part parlay, over receptions, over yards, and an anytime touchdown score. He made a 2,000% return on his profit. $5 bet, $105 win. So shout out to Josh Heisler for his winning FanDuel ticket. But as I mentioned, guys, the Bears, as it stands today, would have the 5th pick in the NFL draft, also the 1st pick from Carolina, but their own pick would be 5th, and they're one game out of the playoff race in the NFC. So when you look at that, the highs and the lows, do you think the Chicago Bears are a good football team?
The Bears are not a good football team, guys. They're not hideous. They're not the Panthers. They're not the Patriots. But they're not a good football team.
But they sit in the 5 spot.
I think
mean,
that's
that-
more a
that
reflection
kinda
on
makes
just
them-
the bottleneck of the
Well,
NFL.
Pete Rozelle is smiling right now because he wanted parity, and here it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think from 5 to 30, there's, it's or 6 to 30, whatever. It's not a huge gap.
6 to 20 for sure, I would say.
Yeah,
is not a big
I don't
gap.
even think
Because if you go 30, that means you're throwing either San Francisco, Philly, or Dallas in with Chicago. I can't do that.
Yeah, well, whatever. I'll move it to 6 to 29. But I look at the Bears,
flexible
and
today.
I didn't think that highly of them. I said yesterday they're better than I thought they'd be because I thought they'd be Panthers and Patriots bad, and they're a step above that. But then I mentioned earlier to some of the guys that I was on my podcast this morning. We did a crossover with the guy in Chicago, Dan McNeil, who's been covering, Chicago sports for 1,000 years, and he was like, "No, the Bears stink." He's like, I expect the Browns to win by double digits. He thinks they're a fraud even for the games they've won recently.
They most recently beat and
Yeah,
played well against the Lions.
I know, and he thinks the Lions are kind of coming apart here at the end of the season. But he does not give a lot of credibility to any of their wins outside of the Lions win. It's his opinion. But I look at the Bears. I think they're a below-average team, a middling team at best. They're okay on defense. They got one or two guys. They're okay on offense. When Justin Fields plays great, they got a chance to win. If he's mediocre or worse, they've got no chance to win. So no. To answer the question, they're not a good team.
Jay, good or bad?
I'm with Bull. I don't think they're a good team at all. They've defensively they've been better. They've been forcing turnovers the last few weeks. I forget I think it's 11 over the last 3 games or something like that. They've done a nice job of generating turnovers, and obviously that's been a problem for the Browns at times this year, is giving defenses a short field or giving opponents a short field. So that's one concern.
Aren't they one of the tops in the leagues at giveaways?
Yeah.
So
that
might be troublesome.
That's the one thing that could level this out.
Yeah.
But if the Browns play a clean game and hold on to the football, I don't have a lot of faith in Justin Fields. I haven't. He hasn't really shown a ton. I think.
Do you think he's showed improvement this year?
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, I think he has. I wouldn't want him as the franchise quarterback of my team.
So if you're in management, then you're using either the first or the fifth or wherever they end up.
I think he's probably getting traded.
quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's probably getting traded this offseason.
Interesting.
I would think, right?
Pittsburgh and Atlanta are said to be eyeballing him.
Yeah, and he's a guy that maybe could benefit from a fresh start elsewhere, although I don't know if Pittsburgh's really the answer, if that's really going to do a whole lot for you. We'll see how they overhaul the offense this offseason. But no, I don't. Chicago doesn't scare me. This is a game in our race to 10 and how to get to 10 wins, even prior to the Jacksonville game. This is the one I had circled: Chicago, the Jets, and the Bengals. That's your path to get there. So I fully expect the Browns.
Okay, so bad.
Well, just because I think that the Browns are going to win the game does not mean that the Bears have to be a bad team. I actually think they're pretty good. At the end of the season, everybody's good. You look at it, New England
Except the Chargers.
Yeah, there you go.
God.
Listen, woo!
42-0 at halftime.
Richard Sherman was half kidding but half serious. He made the first comments in the halftime show.
Yeah.
And he said, they need to make NFL history and fire him right
Fire
now.
him at halftime.
And he was half kidding, but there was some seriousness to the tenor of his comment.
It's hard.
Yeah.
He's a local guy.
No, I know he is. But that's what it looks like when a team quits on their head coach.
At this point, what's the point? They're just going to wait till the end of the season, probably. But go ahead, G. Sorry.
I look at it like this. The Bears can give you some things. You look at their record, 5-8, right? One of the 3 best teams in the league, if you would have asked somebody last week, would have been the Lions, the Dallas Cowboys, and the San Francisco 49ers. They beat them right now. We gave them an L. They're 9-4. They're 5-8 right now. You take a look at the Cleveland Browns. We're 8-5, right? But guess what? You could have taken 49ers. That could have been an L. The Colts could have been an L. There's plenty of games that we won by a hair that could have easily went the other way, and we could be 5-8. When you take a look at what Justin Fields is doing, is he showing more as he was going to be a franchise quarterback? Some would argue that, but one thing he does offer is his legs and his mobility, and that has been shown to hurt the Browns a little bit. DJ Moore, I know, is banged up a little bit. That guy can play football. And you look at Montez Sweat. You talk about people in their defense. Yes, their defense is not great, but look at what he's done. And I know Mikey McNuggets, if he's smart, he'll have a Montez Sweat since stat for us.
Look at the screen, G.
Oh, right, there you go. Since Montez Sweat has come along, they're playing much better defensively. They offer some things to you. They got a pass rusher to get after you. So to me, are they a great team? No. But they're a team that I think you got to respect, and you got to come in and play right, and you can't have turnovers, especially given what we got on our roster and our injury problems. They are a decent team, and you're going to have to come out there and beat them.
Yeah, because it's either or, I'm going to go bad, just because, the old saying, you are what your record says you are, and for every win they have that could have been a loss, they probably have a loss that could have been a win. I'm going to make an overarching statement about the NFL right now and see if you guys agree with this. I think all 32 teams are in 2 camps. There are the good teams that can play bad, and there are the bad teams that can play good. We've seen the 49ers stub their toe for a 3-game stretch. Yep. Now we're watching the Philadelphia Eagles stub their toe during a 3-game stretch. The Cowboys inexplicably had an ugly loss to the Arizona Cardinals. What happened there? So I think what we have right now in the NFL is really, I call it Pete Rozell's dream. He was all about parity because in his world, if every and really you can see it coming to fruition in the AFC. The more teams that are in it in week 13, the more the cash register rings, because those markets are all watching intently. What the league does not want is 6 good teams, 20 bad teams, and 6 middling teams. What they have right now is 6 really good teams, 6 really bad teams, and 20 teams that can beat anybody on any given Sunday, and as a result, they can lose to anybody on any given Sunday.
I don't even think there's 6 really good teams.
Yeah, I would go even farther and maybe say 3 and 3, and the rest in the middle.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Here's why I say that. I have to say, really good teams are teams that I say can win the Super Bowl. There's actually a bigger number than that in my mind this year. Yes, you've got the elites. And right now to me it's 3. But you can also point to evidence on all 3 and say, are they really elite? Are they really good? Because they've shown stretches this year where they haven't been.
But Jay, every team, the best teams every year have times when they don't play well.
Exactly. That's my point. That's exactly my point. So when we're trying to classify the Lions, no, I don't have them in my really good, clearly. They're very close to my really bad, but I think they're in the middle of those 20 teams. It was fascinating last night on Thursday Night Football on Amazon when they showed the 2 conference playoff pictures. There are, and we talked about this on the show yesterday, 6 teams at 7-6 in the AFC. There's 1 7-6 in the playoff record, in the playoff hunt in the NFC, and a host of 6 and 7s. So 7-6 in the AFC is to the NFC what 6 and 7 is.
The AFC is way better top to bottom.
Much more.
But the NFC has the best teams right now.
I agree with that. Now, it's also interesting because, the NFC teams are playing more NFC teams. You're playing the conference games. You're playing your divisional games. So I always ask this question during a regular season, for instance. Like, I do it in baseball as well, particularly when it was a weighted schedule so heavily. How good are the Guardians? They're playing the Central a third of their games, and the Central sucks.
Yeah.
And then we would find out once they would intermingle in the playoffs. I don't know if the NFC has so many bad teams that the NFC elites have been beating up on them and bulking up their record. In the case in the AFC Central to me, or AFC North to me, is everybody in that division is really good. And they're stacking up wins against other teams from other divisions that are not. And as a result, you've got a bunch of teams with 500 records and with playoff paths. I just think for me, the Lions, if I had to classify them, I just think they're closer to a bad than a good.
I actually think I don't know how we got to the Lions, but
You said the Lions.
I'm sorry, the Bears. The Bears.
Oh, the Bears. Okay.
Yeah, I don't either.
I was confused there.
No, the reason I was going to say that is because
they beat the Lions last
the most recent game for them, and I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched more of it than I otherwise would have because they're our next opponent. What I kept saying when I was watching that game was the Lions are going to find the switch and they're going to flip it and they're going to win.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And the Bears, I thought, did a really good job of squashing any momentum that the Lions would build.
Yeah.
And that's what good teams do, but I just don't think they're a good team. And this is a game that, for me, I know the Lions closer than I would have it. I don't see the Lions or the Bears being able to beat the Browns. I just don't.
Well, one player on Sunday in particular who we'll have to keep an eye on is Jalen Johnson, who's the focus of our next topic, which is brought to us by FanDuel, because even as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay red hot on FanDuel. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. I mentioned Jalen Johnson. He's the Bears' top cornerback. He's also the top-rated cornerback in all of PFF, which is hard to believe, and he's 20 points higher, according to PFF, than Denzel Ward, and we all think Denzel Ward has been playing phenomenal when healthy this season. If it does come down to a Jalen Johnson versus Amari Cooper one-on-one situation, the Bears don't always shadow the number one receiver with Johnson. He kind of stays on half the field. But if it does come down to Cooper, who's one of the best route runners in football, against a guy like Jalen Johnson, who do you guys give the edge to?
I mean, I would be disingenuous if I said, if I could give a good answer on that, because I'm not going to lie. Before this week, I had never heard of Jalen Johnson. I'm not going to be a phony about it.
What year is he in? Because I hadn't either.
He's in
a
his
free agent.
third year.
He's a free agent.
Fourth year.
He's a free agent at the end
He was
of
a
the year.
second-round pick
This
in
is a
2020.
team that we don't watch. They don't play
I rarely
in our,
watch the Bears.
in our conference, so.
Yeah, I just never heard of the guy before. I saw he was a second-round pick, 50th pick overall in 2020. He's had four picks this year, 1 for a touchdown. So the stats are pretty good. I mean, 4 picks. I know this guy, what's his name on the Cowboys, got like 8 picks, but 4 picks in this day and age is pretty darn good. But it's hard to say. I mean, I guess I would. The guy seems to be having a great year, and Amari Cooper's banged up right now. So I guess I'll give him the edge at the moment because Amari Cooper's injured, and he's playing at a really high level, this guy.
You guys? Jay?
Yeah, I mean, the injury is a concern with Amari, and I still think the drops are tied to that because I think he's protecting the ribs. I think his ribs are still bothering him because he's had a couple of drops that
Uncharacteristic.
those are balls that he doesn't normally drop, but I think he's trying to protect the
Bernie
ribs.
said yesterday that's a thing. That's a real thing. When a receiver has an injury, they start hearing footsteps,
Absolutely.
seeing shadows,
Yeah.
and it's understandable.
Yeah, but I still like his route running, his footwork. Those are the types of things that can offset elite corners, I think, just because of they find ways to get open. So I'm still going to give Amari the edge, even with the injury, partly because I have to agree with Bull. We haven't seen a ton of the Bears. Yeah. It's hard for me to say. I know Johnson's in a contract year. He's playing for a contract. And I also don't put as much stock in PFF as everybody else does. It's a tool, and it's nice to have, and it helps with linemen and things. But I've talked to enough players who are like, they don't know what we're trying to accomplish. Enough players dismiss PFF that it's hard for me to totally buy into it. Yeah. So for that reason, and going off my eye test, I'm still going to give the edge to Amari.
Listen, I don't know. What's his name? Jalen Johnson. He sounds like a small forward for the Grizzlies or something. Like Jalen Johnson.
Does sound like that.
Right. Like Jalen Johnson, I give him his respect. But at the end of the day, like, Amari Cooper don't got to respect that. Like, listen, I've been in this league. What I do is run routes. That's what I do. And if Amari Cooper can catch the ball and get over the fact that he's been putting the ball on the ground, because I think it's getting in his head a little bit, if he catches the football, he's going to be all right. And the way the Browns are playing offense this is the cool thing about the way the Browns play in the style with Joe Flacco. You're not going to see Joe Flacco just sitting back there and it's going to be obvious pass. The way the Browns want to play is, hey, let's be at 2nd and 4. Let's keep the sticks 3rd and 2. Now it's a run pass option. Now you can run play action. And guess what? As a defensive back, it's way harder, more difficult to guard receivers if you don't know if they're running the ball or they're passing the ball. And that's just simple. That's a simple, fact of football. So Amari Cooper's going to run routes. They're going to get him the ball if he catches it. I think he's still going to do what he does, and he does that at a high level. I still give the edge to Amari Cooper.
And guys, Amari Cooper has a chance to make Browns history this week. Certainly, even if he doesn't do it this week, we'll have a chance next week. He's 124 yards away from 1,000 yards. If he gets to 1,000 yards, he will become the first player in the entire history of the Cleveland Browns, to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons.
Just stunning.
In fact, Ozzie,
that's almost
the only
like
guy ever to have 2 is a tight end.
you don't want to celebrate that because it's embarrassing.
And he had
It's never
1,001
happened.
and 1,002.
Quickly.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Browns receivers all time or Guardians outfielders last year? What's worse?
Guardians outfielders last year.
No, I'm going to say Browns receivers all time because they've had 50 years to figure this
That's true.
out.
Yeah.
How can one team be so... Now, I know that in Cleveland you want to run the ball. You're built to run the ball. But how they can be so awful at one of the sport's most vital positions is the head scratcher of all head scratchers.
Well, I mean, if you look at the way the game has evolved, the receivers become really important over the last 15 years.
yeah, but we missed that train.
But and the Browns have been just god awful for the last.
It's not
15
like there
to
weren't
20
great
years.
receivers in the 80s and 90s.
Well,
I
here's the
understand,
thing.
but
No.
it's not. But the game wasn't as predicated
Sure,
on receivers
But even
as it is now.
in this era, they've brought in receivers that were previously great, that had flashes of it here but couldn't sustain it.
Well, but so far, Amari Cooper through 2 years.
He's the outlier.
So far.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
It really is. Give me Amari. All day, every day. I'm going to be just like Bull. When we asked this question, I literally said, why don't I know that name if he's the number 1 rated corner in the NFL? By PFF.
Yeah.
They're dead to me. And they have been for a while. Like, I've just seen too much all over the board. We had one of their guys on. He tried to explain away stuff. I still have a million questions for him. How in the world? How in the world? How in the world? Like, I know that it's a metric that we use as a yardstick, but I think that metric is broken. There's just too many outliers. Like you, I've asked a lot of players, even coaches, about PFF, and many of them laugh. Many of them say, yeah, well, if they only knew.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's the biggest part of check marking carried out assignment or missed assignment is knowing said assignment.
Right.
That's the biggest part of the equation, and they don't know that.
It's
Guys,
a
how
tool.
else are we supposed? Like, we're not watching this guy play. How else are we doing?
Listen, I agree with you. However, if there was a currency that was the world's currency, and it wasn't working, I would say we got to change the world currency. Now, I know there's no other way to measure it. I wish PFF had a competitor. I wish someone else would.
But
rise
they do. There
from
are
the
other
ashes.
people doing.
No, not that does it in depth and has the reputation that they do. I just think, for my money, I also, by the way, I want to say this. I have had players that say they're pretty damn good. They're pretty damn, they don't get all of it right, but sometimes they're dead on.
Yeah.
So I think, like anything else, it's not a science, but it's all we have, so we use it.
It's a tool, but it's not a Bible.
I just think if this guy was that great, we would have heard of him. We would know what his reputation is by now.
I think it's more valuable for trenches, right? You know, if you watch an offensive line or you know defensive line, you know whether or not you got blocked, whether you got pancaked, whether you
because there's no other stat to measure their success.
No,
with running backs, we can look at numbers, wide receivers, quarterbacks.
I think it's so valuable for.
I still think it has value, but it's not the end all be all.
No, here's what I think. I think he's a really good player. I believe that. Based on, and the only thing I'm giving any credibility to there is the PFF says he is.
Yeah.
Is he the best? I doubt it. Is he 25 points better than Denzel Ward? No.
I have a hard time believing
No
that.
way. And again, that's just one more bit of evidence that I throw on my statement that PFF is dead to me. Come on. Denzel Ward or Jalen, he might be a great player.
Yeah.
He's not 25 points better than Denzel Ward.
I won't say they're dead to me.
And I also think, too, we talked with Bernie about this yesterday, I do think that there is a certain level of wide receiver PTSD that's going on right now. But I also think that Amari Cooper is a proud competitor who will silently go about his business, and instead of talking about it in the media, instead of telling anybody about it, I've been banged up, what is he going to do? He's going to focus. He's going to go out there this week, and he's going to have, I'm not going to say a monster game, but he's going to have a typical Amari Cooper game. I think he's going to be
better at home.
He is much better at home, and we don't know why.
We did that a couple of weeks ago as one of the stats, and he is significantly better at home. The Browns are back at home, and we are home on WKYC today from 12:30 to 1 for, as Jay likes to say, I like to say, brand new, never before seen content that you can catch only on WKYC. Make sure you guys tune in to Channel 3 at 12:30. If you're not in Cleveland,
it still looks like we're arm in arm.
It does.
If you're not in Cleveland, you could download the WKYC or WKYC Plus mobile app and watch there, and we appreciate all the ongoing support.
By the way, have we ever talked about the Cavs, Ohio State, or the Guardians on Channel 3 yet?
No.
But we will once football season's over.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that picture with Bull and
sure,
all of us?
pull it up,
Kumbaya, arm in arm.
Yeah.
Bull, this looks like your son. I'm not saying Aaron.
Yeah.
But I'm juxtaposing you today with the beard compared to you clean shaven.
Yeah, I look much younger there.
You look like a child to me in that
That's
video.
an older picture, too.
Oh, is it?
That's not been, I don't think that was taken since I've been here.
Really?
That was, it was
No,
taken,
that was a Channel 3
was
green
it?
screen
It was taken
photo.
upstairs when we first announced you were joining.
Yeah.
And shot
yeah,
the
right.
So
promos
you know what
of you
that's
before.
So it's only 2 years
You're
old.
aging
not
in
even.
president years. You know how they always have the photos? Barack Obama when he was elected, Barack Obama when he left office.
Yep.
And you're like, oh my God, what
Yep.
happened? That's sort of like
Look
that.
at Jim Tressel. The day
show
he
is
was
HBO.
hired at Ohio State, and when he left, oh my God.
Yeah, it got him.
Yeah, that's true.
It got him good.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of aging, Joe Flacco's arm has not seemed to age, and the Browns rewarded him with a new contract for the rest of the season worth up to $4.05 million in incentives. I want to start with this question, then we'll get to they should have been a 2-year deal, which I know we're going to get to. But do you guys like how Andrew Berry and Flacco came to agreements on this incentive-based deal, which essentially pays him for wins?
Okay, but first of all, the way this has been worded, it makes it look like he doesn't get paid if they don't win.
Yeah, he
and
still gets
that's
a
not
base
true.
per game.
Yes, he gets the prorated league
It's just
minimum.
heavily incentive laden,
Right,
which, by
right.
the way, it should be.
But I think that it's because of how late they are in the season. Otherwise, it's hardly anything. Like when you break it down to the league minimum, he only gets paid per game. So what do we got? 4 games left?
Yeah.
So it's a way to sort of juice the money. So he gets an extra $75,000 for every regular season win, and then you see it there as it goes throughout the playoffs. But I was talking to some people last night at the event. It's like, no, it's not you have to win to get paid. It's not like
that's essentially the bonus money.
Yeah, but the way it was worded yesterday in a couple places made it look like, well, sorry, Joe, you don't get paid today.
His internship ended a long time ago.
Yeah.
He ain't here for free.
You don't win, you don't get paid.
The reason that, and I saw the same thing you saw, but the reason it was being reported that way was I didn't see a base number.
Yeah.
So I think that was done intentionally. The Browns weren't trying to deceive anybody. I think what the Browns were showing is, look, we'll be happy to pay him an extra $4.05 million.
Right.
And I think it's a perfect structure for a contract. I'm sure he jumped at it. And once again, his second question there, I asked after one start, do they need to sign this guy to an extension? Bernie, we asked yesterday, Bernie said, oh, in my mind, that's done. Like, wow. That's done. Like, they better sign him to an extension. And
I don't think that makes any sense.
The reason he said that is because, look, the price of the backup quarterback is unquestionably going up next year. Everybody agree?
No.
Okay, so I talked to somebody yesterday who covers this for a living, and I asked him that question because I wasn't sure. In my mind, I have what I'm watching, and I see that what's happened to teams. Look what happened to the Chargers. I mean, that's just one example. I can give you 5, I can give you 10. And what the way I posed the question was, is the market for backup quarterbacks going to go up next year? And it was a text conversation, so I can't imply anything. Absolutely was the answer. Then I said, why? And he said, just look around.
Okay, but here's
look what's going on.
But here's where I would push back. So you're just going to give an extra $4 million to Joe Flacco or $5 million, but the pool is still limited.
It's like the same pool.
Right. Yeah. There's still the same number of competent backups.
100%.
And then so there's not like there's magically going to be 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 new quarterbacks that are suddenly going to be worth $7 or $8 million.
No, it's going to be, and we've talked about this on the show because I brought this up a number of times. The guys that the league has flushed out, and the guys in the 30 to 33-year-old range. Now, I know that does not include Flacco, but the league has collectively stamped guys done. And it's typically because when they get into that veteran range, they don't want to pay that veteran salary to a guy that's been around because heretofore, they've looked at that position as insignificant. They're all the same. We can rotate them in and out. The Browns, I think, are a perfect example of why that isn't true.
I just think in the end, Jay, there's no reason to panic. He's 30. He's guy's going to be 39 years old. He's played 2 games.
Wait, what's the panic?
Signing him giving him guaranteed money for next year based on 2 games when he's 39 years old.
I wouldn't give him 2 years. I would definitely give him next year.
Right.
And
But that's
why.
2.
That's the amount of money that franchises willfully throw away.
But what is the rush here?
Is it the most important position in the sport?
Right, but I don't know. I don't even know if he's going to be good the rest of this year, let alone next year.
We don't. But here's what I can tell you.
Yeah.
Because I asked this question also to my friend. Is he going to be on an NFL roster to start the season next year? He's like, are you paying attention?
Well, what if he falls apart the next couple of weeks?
We have 4 more games to see what could happen.
Why would you?
It's the same reason why would you sign Stefanski to an extension when you don't have to? The clock says you don't have to.
The price today is not the price tomorrow.
No, that's exactly right. And here's what he said.
You think Joe Flacco's going to get some big contract at 39 years old? No chance.
No, it's not going to be big bull. It's going to be a contract.
It may outpace. Same with Jacoby Brissett. It may outpace what you're willing to pay.
Jacoby Brissett didn't get paid that much.
What do you got? $8 million.
He got $8 million.
He got $8 million.
Flacco's not even going to get $8 million.
No,
not getting $8 million.
So what I'm saying though is we did not think that
guys, he's played 2 games.
But what I'm saying to you is we did not think that Jacoby Brissett was getting $8 million until he played well, and then he got $8 million.
No, he did. Last year, when the offseason started last year, people thought he'd get more than $8 million.
He got 6 from the Browns. The year before, he got 6.
Yeah,
so it went up by 2.
That's $2 more million.
Okay.
So I think the point is Jacoby Brissett's the perfect example because he's the guy that in the past the league has sort of flushed out by now. So, and I don't mean the distant past. I mean in the recent past.
I don't know that I agree with that.
He's the kind of guy that will look around at the backup quarterbacks that are currently in the NFL.
Well, so who's a guy who should still be a backup?
Well, I'm not going to get into that because I think there are a lot of guys that have already been flushed out in the last 5 years that aren't coming back.
But like,
so
who?
now
Like,
it's now it's now it's. Well, I think Flacco's a perfect example.
But it's not
But
that
he just got flushed out at 39.
and it's
no,
not
he
that
was 37 when he got flushed out. He's not even 39 yet.
He's 38.
Yeah,
gonna be
he's
39 in a
38.
couple of
and when the
weeks.
league said no on him,
But they didn't lowball him. They just said go away.
that's exactly my point.
But
they
they didn't even give him
collectively
a
labeled
chance.
him as done.
But they didn't even
and
give him a
yesterday,
chance.
Aditi said they clearly made a mistake.
Yeah, they did.
Now, here's
From
the
Jay,
thing.
you
From what it
said
looks
guys
so
30
far.
to 35, and I'm like,
Yes.
where is this group? But who?
Well, Bull, we don't have them anymore. You know why?
But
we have,
who? Who's
we have,
been pushed out the last
Now
few
we
years?
have P.J. Walker.
That's one guy.
No,
There's
okay.
always been a P.J. Walker.
Like last night's a bad example because he played well.
Yeah.
Aiden O'Connell versus Stick Easton. That, guys, was an NFL quarterback matchup in an exclusive window. And what we watched with the Chargers, now look, there's a lot of things going on with the Chargers.
Yeah.
A lot of things. Number one, the team has collectively quit on its head coach.
But Jay, I'm just trying to think of it.
Bull,
who's an example?
I'm not going to give you examples, and here's why. I haven't thought specifically
Okay.
about that, but what I'm telling you, and I think this makes my point,
Yeah.
when you've got guys like P.J. Walker starting, are you going to tell me, really, that there haven't been guys in the last 5 years that have been flushed out of the league that had more experience, starting experience? This guy was in an off-brand league, and they brought him in.
But meanwhile, Jake Browning, who's gone in and played well, and I don't know.
He's a perfect example.
But he hasn't played. We didn't know he was any good.
No, but he's been in a system for a long time. Now, maybe
But
Jake
he's never
would have
played
been,
a game.
I know, but watch. Jake
But you're
would have been a
saying
guy.
we need veteran quarterbacks. I
Let me-
don't know what you love. You just said that to
let-
me.
let
You
me-
said
let
we
me-
need veteran
We
quarterbacks.
do. We do.
hold
But
on.
you can't give one example.
Let me jump
Gene,
in.
do you have an example?
Let me jump in and give you this. I'm not even going to go across the league. I'm going to just go
Yeah.
with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns had Jacoby Brissett last year. He played better than they thought. They gave him. They got 6. Came the offseason, he was a free agent. They offered him 2 more. He got 8. The price of the market went up. When you had quarterbacks that got injured, like Deshaun Watson, the Cleveland Browns at the trade deadline went back to Washington, and they said, can we get Jacoby Brissett back? They said, give us a 3rd-round pick.
Well,
and all
we
this
don't
stuff.
know what they said. We don't know that for sure.
But here's the thing. But a lot of people reported that the price was higher than they were willing to spend.
Right.
So therefore, you lost a player, and he got more money, and then the market ramped up to a point where he was bringing back more than you were.
No, he wasn't bringing back more because nobody was willing to pay that price.
So yeah,
Last year.
This year.
No. What
Nobody
I'm
was
saying
willing
is,
to pay a 3rd-round pick for Jacoby Brissett.
hold on, let me.
The bottom line is,
I didn't finish though.
Go ahead.
So the reality of the situation is, you have to learn from what you're having mistakes about. We had a situation where Deshaun Watson got hurt, and it looked like your season was over. There's a lot of teams who have $250 million quarterbacks. They're paying them God knows what. But yet, it's so crazy that you don't have, you're saying that you're paying them that, and it's important, but the backup to that same important position isn't worth $4 million?
yeah, but I don't think
I don't get that.
I'm not arguing that you shouldn't have a competent backup. I'm arguing that I don't have to lock into Joe Flacco who's about to turn 39 years old after 2 games. Why would I lock into him now? First of all, he may not be the best option. Number 2, he's having such a great experience. I find it hard to believe that at the end of this year, if the Browns want him back, that he's not going to come back.
you don't think he's going to hit the free market?
He's 39 years
doesn't
old.
matter, Bull.
What do you mean it doesn't matter? He hasn't been good in a decade.
Is he
consistently?
Eye test. Does he look like a
Does he still have the arm?
38-year-old quarterback to you?
No, through 2 games he
Okay,
hasn't.
so
But he hasn't
Bull-
played great.
Bull,
Let's
but
not get carried away.
Here's the point, and you made it. The
Yeah.
price goes up with each good performance.
So how much do you think Joe Flacco's going to get next
No
year?
idea, and here's why.
Yeah.
We don't know how is the market going to respond to what's happened in the league this year.
Yeah.
And here's my point. The vertebrae to my point is this. We've sat on this show before and said, well, the fact of the matter is, if Deshaun Watson gets hurt, our season's over.
Yeah.
No. Because the Bengals said that when they lost their guy. And their season is not over.
Here's
Well,
the
they
And
part.
you know why it's
I
not
said it
over?
about them.
You thought it was over.
I said
We
it.
sat here
Yeah.
at the beginning of this season and said, none of this matters. Look, this is all Deshaun Watson.
Right.
If he gets hurt, our season is over. That's not true. And it's certainly not true in Cincinnati. And the reason I bring that up, I think that your guy, Browning, is going to be a perfect example of what we might see moving forward. By the way, I do like the fact that the Browns have drafted DTR and sort of put their flag in the idea he's that guy.
That's the part that nobody's paying any attention to. The Browns have their long-term backup quarterback. You may not want to hear it. It's DTR.
Right. So how did it work this year when DTR came in?
Well,
for
he was
Deshaun
a
Watson?
fifth-round rookie who got thrown into a situation before he was ready. And when he came back the second time, didn't look bad.
What you're telling me then is the veteran at 38
was better than
has
the rookie.
given this team a much better chance of making the playoffs and making a run than the first-year rookie has.
So are you going to?
And that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so then let's go a step further. So you're going to burn 3 spots on the 53 on a quarterback.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, how much?
And Bernie said, and listen,
And how much do you want to pay this quarterback?
that's going to be set by the market.
Well,
And
give me a number. How much do you want to pay a backup
what
quarterback?
is Jacoby Brissett's making $8 million, correct?
Okay,
Four.
No, he's making 8.
Well, I
He's
want
making
to, if
eight.
you say throw a number at 4.
No, I would even pay him more than that. But here's the thing. We all agree on this. It is the most important position, not just in football. I've always said it's the most important position in sports.
Yeah.
Am I wrong on that?
Nope.
Of course
So
not.
why would you spend, as a franchise, $45 million on that position, but not have a solid insurance policy as a backup?
Because until this year, and we'll see how it pans out in the playoffs, once your backup quarterback came in most cases, you were done. And we'll see what happens. It's been a weird year so far with a rash of injuries across the board. And the reason there's a couple of guys like P.J. Walker have played is because there's been more injuries this year to quarterbacks than we've ever seen in the history of football
We have a
for
list.
whatever
We're
reason.
going to do this as a draft coming up. We're going to
Yeah.
list the backup
2
quarterbacks.
minutes, yeah. 2
But
minutes.
the bottom
And we're
line,
gonna talk
G,
about that.
You said Flacco gets paid $4 million, so what do they got to worry about paying him now for? He's only going to get $4 million.
No, that was the number he threw out that he'd be comfortable paying.
Here's the reason why I
Yeah.
want it. We talk about on the field. The man knows football inside and out. I got DTR. Guess what? I feel like DTR can learn from him. You got Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson can learn from him. You got a guy that's in that room that is no rookies, no novices. He's not Josh Dobbs. He has cachet. He's almost the same. He's 3 years younger than Kevin Stefanski. The dude brings more to your team than just throwing the football. Look how the team
Aditi
plays.
said that and Bernie said that. They
All right,
said,
all right. So what are you paying him next year? What are you paying him?
well, first of all, before we get to that point, that's why I would do it now. The market has yet to be set. And I asked the question, okay, so how much of an increase are we looking at next year? And he said, I don't know. The market will determine that. And I don't know that either. But what I do know now is there is a price for a good backup quarterback that we all have in our heads. It's going to be higher next year. It just is.
So then let's pretend it's $6 million. Let's do it's between Brissett and what he's making now.
Sure.
For the sake of whatever, Jason, you're getting at, let's say $6 million for this.
Well, Dalvin Tomlinson cost $6 million against the cap, so there goes Dalvin Tomlinson because
No,
you want
it's
a
not
backup
an either
quarterback.
or.
No,
I don't
it
think
is.
It's an either or.
It is.
You know what it does? It puts a bigger spotlight on redoing contracts like Conklin. Like what? What was the urgency to do that? And we're talking about the most important position on the roster,
Well, the
and we're
urgency-
going to lowball him.
But you just said that the Bengals, the way they did it is right. And again, I have no idea. Jake Browning might suck the rest of the year. I have no clue. But they're not paying him anything.
Right, that's the best way to
So
do it.
if DTR ends up being the guy,
That's
they're
why
not
they're
paying him
doing-
anything.
that's why
No,
they're
for
doing it
now,
this way.
Browning is going
Right.
to get paid. And,
No, he's
and you
not.
know what?
I don't
When
think
he's a
so.
free agent, he will. Do you guys remember Scott
You're basing
Mitchell?
that on 2 games.
Do you remember Scott Mitchell?
Yeah, teams have been smart since then and haven't paid him.
The point that I'm trying to make that I think is falling flat on everybody but G. We all agree it's the most important position in sports.
Yeah.
We go all in to an inordinate percentage of your team's salary cap
Yeah.
on said player. And you're going to roll the dice with P.J. Walker?
Is Joe Flacco's not rolling the dice?
A hell of a lot less than it is with
It
P.J.
is rolling
Walker.
the dice.
One won a Super Bowl, one came from
Jay, he won the Super Bowl 11 years ago.
I don't care, he won it.
So let's bring it. Let's
and
bring
by
Brett
your own-
Favre back.
by your own admission-
So Brett Favre should play
That's-
quarterback.
by your
Terry
own,
Bradshaw.
no, by
What's
your
Terry
own
doing?
admission.
No, he hasn't been a starter for 6 years, Joe
that's
Flacco.
disingenuous.
Give me him. Give me him.
That's
Roll the dice with him.
Then why weren't you saying it all year?
Okay,
That's
listen,
disingenuous.
I did say it all year.
Guys, we're not going to compare Joe Flacco to P.J. Walker.
No,
that's
that's
disingenuous.
silly. That's
That's
silly.
not having a
Who
fair
was
dialogue.
boring.
You said, well, P.J. Walker's rolling the
No,
dice. Joe
P.J.
Flacco
I didn't
too.
say it. You said P.J. Walker's a roll of the dice. I said Joe Flacco's a roll of the dice. P.J. Walker sucks. He's not a roll of the dice.
Right.
We
They're
knew
not
he
the
sucked.
same.
You made my point.
No, I didn't make your point.
Give me Flacco.
I understand.
Give me Flacco. At whatever extra million you're going to spend on him, give me Joe Flacco.
Okay.
And look,
But
he could fall flat on his face tomorrow.
As he
Week
has
4,
each of the last few seasons.
he could get injured.
Yeah.
And that could be that. But what I'm saying is, so much is at stake here, guys.
Yeah.
I watched the Chargers last night.
I get it.
Without
Their
their
season's
heartbeat.
over. What's the difference?
I know it is, but
Yeah.
without their guy,
Yeah.
I watched a team that literally, this was embarrassing. This was the worst thing I've seen on an NFL field all year.
Except for when the Broncos lost to the Dolphins. Give them 70.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that this wasn't worse because they quit on their head coach. They quit on him.
Yeah, I don't really care about the Chargers. I'm just saying there's no to me there's just no rush. I agree.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think the Chargers last night would have said, if they had a button that they could push magically, Easton Stick or Joe Flacco?
I'm not debating with you that Joe Flacco's not better than P.J.
Okay.
Walker. Nobody's trying to argue that.
My-
No, I even agree on some level that yes, this year at least, it's important to have a good backup quarterback. But that doesn't mean I need to sign soon-to-be 39-year-old Joe Flacco now for next year. To me, that doesn't make any sense.
If they go 4-0 down the stretch and they make a deep playoff run, we can revisit this
Exactly.
conversation. At this
we
point,
can, but then here's the problem. There's going to be other suitors that are going to jump in line and say, well, hell, we saw how important the backup quarterback was. I don't know that we've seen the importance of a backup quarterback any more than this season.
I just don't know that
I don't think-
anybody's knocking down the
And
door
the
for
league
Joe
is
Flacco.
knee-jerk. You know that. The league has watched 55 different quarterbacks start NFL games this year. And they've watched some really bad ones. Easton Stick.
To be fair to Easton Stick, it's one game.
It's
I
one
mean,
game, but the Chargers had to call his number.
I mean, listen, what are you going to do? He's a young player. I mean, DTR looked
Yes.
terrible in his first game, and then he played better in the next couple of games.
Absolutely.
How do we know that DTR wouldn't be playing as well as Joe Flacco is if he kept playing?
Probably
Probably not, but,
with so much at stake, just give me the guy, particularly because he doesn't look old. Bernie said yesterday, if the only reason you keep him around, I think it's the right makeup. Aditi liked it because she said one of the best reasons you do it now is because he's a good person. He's not going to be disruptive in the quarterback room. Deshaun Watson is never going to be like, oh, I'm not comfortable having this guy around. And Bernie made this point. Bernie said, watch him in the pocket. Look at his pocket presence. Strong, tall, confident. That's what quarterback play looks like. He mentioned Deshaun Watson has some shortcomings with his footwork and with certain things.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson can become a better quarterback with Joe Flacco in the quarterback room.
I just think to worry about next year is unnecessary
We
now.
will revisit it after
Fair
4
enough.
games.
Yes.
We'll talk about it.
Fair
Big Nuggets,
Fair.
what we got?
We're going to draft some backup quarterbacks now, guys. I'm actually very excited about this, and our backup quarterback draft today is brought to us by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay red hot on FanDuel, and right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and get in on all the NFL action. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. I sent you guys the list. There are 10 backup quarterbacks who are currently playing, plus Josh Dobbs. And we're going to go in reverse order from the guy you'd want least for the rest of the season. This is not for the Browns. This is for a generic team in the playoff hunt. We'll start at the team with the 10th, and we'll go down to number 1.
Do you have them on a list so we can see all of them?
I will read them to you. We have the draft order, or
Mike.
the draft results. Yes.
Because there is one missing in Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, he's not in this discussion.
He should have been.
I wonder why.
We just forgot
You
about
wanna
it.
add him
Scored-
in?
Well, his
We
team
could
scored
add-
63 last night, and he looked really good.
Okay.
By the
we
way,
could add Aiden in. That's fine. We could add
Ethan
Aiden to the
Pocic and Juan Thornhill not on the field during the portion of practice open to the media.
Not good.
All right.
All right, so we could add Aiden O'Connell. So there's 11, which means one person will get left off. With that being said, the 11 quarterbacks up for debate. Aiden O'Connell, Easton Stick, Josh Dobbs, Bailey Zappi, Zach Wilson, Gardner Minshew, Mitch Trubisky, Will Levis, Tommy DeVito, Jake Browning, and Joe Flacco.
are we basing this on one game?
No, this is from if you were a generic team in the playoff hunt, Who would you want as your quarterback among these
rest of the
11?
year.
For the rest of the year.
Are you
For the
asking
rest
like
of this
what we've
season.
seen from them so far? Like,
Let me
what do
see
we
if
know
I got
about
this
Easton
on my
Stick
phone.
except for what he put on tape last night?
Yeah, that's all you get.
Yeah.
So
He would
So
be,
it's
he
just
would be
for the
my
rest
11th.
of for the rest of this season.
this
Yeah.
season, correct.
Okay.
He would be at the bottom of my list. Do you guys agree with that, or is there one that?
Yeah, just because there's no sample size for him,
mean-
really.
Right. I mean, but I mean, I watched him last night. I felt sorry for him. My only
I see.
emotion watching him was
I mean, he had no talent
sympathy.
around him.
No, and I thought the team had quit.
Yeah.
You know what's
So
funny? His stat line is almost identical to Joe Flacco's stat line against the Rams.
Well, look, they were down by 60 points.
I'm just saying, if you just look at the straight box score,
Right.
almost the exact
I also
same
watched him
box
hold
score.
on to the football for entirely too long. all
I'm
night.
going to give him a break since he's only played one game, but I'm putting Mitch Trubisky 11.
Oh, wow. That's a
he's-
slam.
You're not wrong.
Worse
You're not
than
wrong.
Easton Stick. Oh, my goodness.
I'm gonna go with Stick.
Yeah, I'm going with Stick, too.
I don't even like saying Stick that
Jason,
much.
who you
So we
going?
got a tie. so-
I would say Stick just because there's not enough of a sample
right.
So
size.
Sticks
Yeah.
11.
Stick gets
Start with
the
number
11.
10, guys. Number 10.
Mitch
go right to-
Trubisky.
we go
Yeah,
back to Trubisky.
I'm okay with Trubisky at
Yeah.
10 because,
Yeah.
quite frankly, I didn't like him better than any of the other names on the
Yeah,
list
yeah.
other than Stick.
So Trubisky at 10. Where are we going for number 9, guys?
It's tough a little bit.
I think it's between
I got Zappy in the mix.
Zappy.
I like Zappy.
Yeah, but do you like him more than Will Levis?
Yeah.
Because I
No,
really
no.
like
No,
Will
I
Levis.
like Levis.
I
I
like
like
Will
Levis.
I
Levis.
think Will Levis is a top
I
five
might
for
go
me.
Josh Dobbs at 9.
Woo.
I would probably say.
Yeah, I'd have no problem with that just because.
Or Zach Wilson, although he
See,
played well last week.
Zach is
but-
just so odd.
I
It's
think
tough.
he sucks.
It's tough.
He's started more than a full season of games.
I mean, I'm not going to put. How much higher do you want to put Aiden O'Connell?
Oh, I forgot about
yeah,
Aiden.
I don't know.
Like, I would put him there.
I mean,
I would take.
was last night his first? No, he started one other game
No, he
against
started the last couple
Chargers.
weeks. No, he started the last couple weeks.
Oh, he has.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a very good first
Oh no,
game.
his first start was against the Chargers, and he got sacked like 6 times.
Yeah,
Was he part of that 6-0 game?
he was. He was
Yes.
the starter for the 3-0 game.
I mean, I would put him at.
You know what's
9.
amazing stat on the? This just shows you that the Chargers quit. They had gone 19 consecutive drives without scoring a touchdown. They scored 9 touchdowns last
Yeah.
night.
All right, I'm with you. I'll Aiden O'Connell 9.
Yeah.
Aiden O'Connell
Yep,
at 9. So
that's very
Trubisky
fair.
10, Aiden O'Connell 9. Who's coming in at number 8?
You're gonna hate me for this, but I'm going Tommy DeVito.
Oh, no.
I'm going Josh Dobbs.
I'd say Zach Wilson.
Oh wait, I thought we had Josh Dobbs already.
No, he
No.
decided to
Dobbs
go
is
with
still-
Aiden
Okay, yeah, no. Well, yeah, okay, you're
Josh
right.
Da-
Yeah,
Josh
Josh
Dobbs
Dobbs
eight?
next for sure. For me.
I'd rather have Zach Wilson than Josh Dobbs, or I'd rather have Dobbs than Zach Wilson.
I'm
Would
going-
you?
yes.
I'm going.
Wow.
I got Dobbs, and then I got Zappy.
Okay.
so that
Okay.
means Dobbs at 8.
So Dobbs
Dobbs
at 8. So 7.
But now wait a minute, don't forget about O'Connell.
no, he's not.
Oh, no, he's
No,
on
O'Connell's
there.
not.
O'Connell's 9.
So who are
Dob-
we?
So you still have
Oh,
Zappy,
I see
Zach
Easton
Wilson,
Stick isn't
Minshew,
listed there.
Levis, DeVito, Browning, and Flacco.
I got Zappy here.
I got Wilson here.
I don't even know that I could go much higher with Browning, but I just don't believe in him long term. But
Better
I hope
than
I'm
these
wrong.
other guys.
I hope I'm wrong. I would go with Bailey Zappi at 7. That's my vote.
2 for Zappy.
God, that's-
I'm
Jason's got Zach Wilson.
on record as Zach Wilson.
Jay. You guys break the tie if Jay goes.
I think I'm gonna go Zappy too.
All right, so
He's
Zappy.
better
Bailey
than you
Zappi
guys
at
think.
7.
I like Zach.
But Zach Wilson has had moments where I'm like, why?
Not really. He's had one good
The
game.
reason I'm going to put Wilson a little bit higher is because I think his offensive line is so epically bad that does anybody have a choice? I think the best thing that happened to Aaron Rodgers was he tore his Achilles on the first play of this preseason.
I'll give it to Zappy. He did come in here and throw for 300 on the Browns.
Yeah, he beat the Browns.
beat the Browns.
And he's like my size.
They put
like
40
I'm eye
on
to
him.
eye with
Well,
him.
Wilson had 300 last week, and they scored 30 in the second half.
I think Zach still gets credit for being drafted where he was, and he should. And if Zappy was second overall, and
Oh, so you're taking that into account. Well, yeah, Zach Wilson
I'm
certainly
just
came
saying-
into the league with higher expectations.
I'm just saying,
all right.
I think too much credit
All
is
right.
given to
Has
where
he
was
changed your
drafted.
mind?
No, I'm sticking with
Because
Zappy.
honestly, I got to be honest, they're interchangeable to me. They're the
Yeah.
same dude.
So is Zach Wilson 6 then?
Yep.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
6,
but let's put him 6A and then Bailey Zappi.
No, Zappy
Or
7.
Zappy 7,
Oh, okay.
so Zach Wilson
So Zach
6.
Wilson 6. All right. So the final 5 are Flacco, Browning, DeVito, Levis, and Minshew.
Correct.
At 5, I'm going.
I got to go with Will Levis.
I'm going DeVito.
I'm going DeVito.
I'm going DeVito also.
You know what? I like.
He's improved.
Will
like
Levis, to
DeVito.
me, looked really good
I think
He
Will
did
Levis
too.
has got
in a
potential.
primetime window.
Well,
I like
think Will
DeVito.
Levis is on a bad team. He's a young quarterback. Like
Yeah.
He's getting better. The
he's
trajectory's
getting
going
better.
up.
I'm
Yeah.
going Levis at 5.
I would go Browning.
I'm
wait.
sorry. I'm
We're at
going
4, right?
DeVito at 5.
DeVito
Yeah,
at
DeVito's
5.
DeVito's at 5.
So now we have Levis,
Wait, you're going
Browning,
DeVito at 5?
Flacco.
No, I'm going DeVito at 5 and Browning
okay,
at
so
4.
4, Flacco, Browning, Levis, and Minshew. I'm going Browning at 4. Also.
Let's see the list
Can we
again.
see-
Can I
I'm
take a look at it?
confused.
Do you want 6 through 5?
Well, whatever you have done so far.
All right, so and start with 10. So we have DeVito at 5. At 6 was Wilson, Zappy, Dobbs, O'Connell.
Yeah, okay,
Trubisky.
go to page 2 there with
So you still have Flacco. You still have
Well,
Browning.
don't put Browning
you still
up yet.
have-
Yeah, hold on Browning. I think
Flacco,
so Flacco, Browning, Levis, and Minshew are
Yeah.
left, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I got to put
Now,
Minshew-
Browning's played better than Levis, but Levis
to
has
me-
more upside.
Agreed.
It's
Yeah.
for this season,
But
remember.
I
For
got to
this
tell you,
season.
I think one of the most remarkable things I have seen this year
Yeah.
is Jake Browning's play through 3 games.
I think Browning.
Remarkable.
I think Browning is higher than Levis.
Yeah,
Just
so let's go Levis
based-
4. Are you guys okay
All right,
with
well,
that?
That's fine.
Or you guys can break the tie if you want. Levis or Browning.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it a tie?
It's
we're
a 2-2.
Browning, they're Levis.
Okay.
I'm going to put Levis at 4.
Okay.
And Browning at 3.
God,
Yeah.
I
Browning
think
has
because
done
just
it
for
3
this
games
year,
in a row.
just for this year, I would take Browning. If we're going long term, I take
That's
Levis.
fair.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
If it's for the
But
next
the
5
exercise
years,
is for the rest of this
for
year.
the rest of this year, I guess I would rather.
Yeah, but
have
that
it.
is a good distinction because
Yeah.
if you're going long term, I definitely want Will Levis.
Yeah.
But right now, I can't.
Browning's
fall.
playing with
now,
a boatload
this is
of
going to be
confidence
interesting
right
to
now.
me.
Flacco
You've got
and
Flacco
Minshew.
and Minshew.
I got to go Flacco 2, Minshew
Absolutely.
1.
Flacco
Yeah,
2 and Minshew 1.
I am too, by the way. So
Wow,
I mean, it's a
I'm
done deal.
surprised.
I am
It's a
too.
done deal.
I
No,
thought
I
it was
for
definitely
sure
going
both of you
Flacco
guys
one.
would take
what
Flacco.
Minshew brings to the Colts is another dimension that they thought they lost when they lost their starter.
We thought when Richardson, I didn't think the Colts were going to be any good this year, period. And then when Richardson got hurt, I'm like, oh, they're going to be miserable.
And Flacco's only done it for 2 games.
Right,
We've
Minshew's-
seen Minshew do it for a
Now-
lot longer.
he
Now,
played great against the Browns, even though they lost.
He was listen, I thought they played well enough to win that game.
Yeah.
Here's why.
And it was because of his play.
Here's why I'm gonna give it to Gardner Minshew. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna need jerk reaction, but I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater. He won at Baltimore. The Colts won at Baltimore.
That was impressive
That's
win.
an impressive win.
You aren't kidding. Right now, Baltimore looks like they're the cream of the AFC crop.
So I gotta roll with that. And he played well against us too. I mean, he didn't play like
they're 7-6, right?
7 and 6. Yeah.
So, like, we all know how that game. And look, I
Right,
know
right.
that you can say that about a
Yep,
lot of the games.
lot of games.
However, the Browns got some real help in that game, and I'm going to take
And they
it.
certainly didn't lose because of Minshew.
No, they did not.
Yeah.
So now, if you just take that one result and flip it, and it was easily flippable, the Colts are where the Browns are, and the
Right.
Browns are where the Colts are.
Right. And because Minshew's done it for longer
that
this
was
year,
that was my distinguishing.
and
I
he's
can't-
younger,
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you got to go. But Flacco, deserves to be a 2.
He does, but the other thing for me was because he brings the added dimension of running the football. I think that's a huge extra dimension.
Yeah.
To me, that is the one ding on Flacco is you don't want that guy leaving the pocket trying to get 3 yards for a
I don't
first
even,
down.
frankly, want him quarterback sneaking. I'm okay with DTR coming in.
See, I would be okay with him sneaking. He's a big dude.
I know, but I'm like worried he's going to get hurt. I don't want him to get hurt.
At 38. Yeah, that might be a good concern.
I'm gonna tell you about 2 weeks. This is how this thing works. I know I manufacture Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Let him have a good game.
I feel
against
like
the
we should
Bears.
do this every week.
Right?
yeah,
and
I
update
mean, we
it.
could do this next week, and
Well,
it could
here's
totally change.
here's the funny thing about that. It's a good idea. Dobbs, not long ago, would have been in the top 3.
Oh, no
Yeah.
doubt.
It's funny. When there was that national media anointment of Josh Dobbs
Yeah.
when they played the primetime game,
Yeah.
everybody on the telecast, Josh Dobbs,
Right.
lovable kid, great parents. He's a pastronaut.
Yeah.
As I'm watching that, I'm going, uh-oh.
Now he's third string.
Yeah.
He's not even the
But
backup
as I'm
this week.
watching that, I'm literally saying, uh-oh. Who was the Steelers quarterback? Bubby Brister.
Oh, Bubby
Remember
Brister.
when the media got their hooks into him?
Bubby, good old Bubby.
The Denver playoff game, his mom was on the TV more
50
than
times.
more than he was.
It was I couldn't stomach it.
Yeah.
And when the media cracks me up, the national media, the last thing you want them to do is to jump on your bandwagon and anoint you as having arrived.
And that's coming. 2 more games, everybody else that was off that Deshaun Watson that Joe Flacco.
Yeah, because the media is ready to bury Deshaun Watson any way they can.
Let's put that behind us.
And if he takes this team to the playoffs, I can see the playoff opening now. I can see it in my mind. We all can. Joe Flacco, kick to the curb, former Super Bowl winner. Back from the dead, and they're going to love him, and then he's going to crap the bed.
I just want to sleep on it. We don't want to. We want to catch people playoff week 1. We ain't trying to see
Next
that.
week we'll have who's starting for the Vikings? Sean Mannion.
No, Nick Mullins.
Oh, Nick Mullins.
So
Mullins
just to
is back
recap
in
the
the
draft.
mix.
Once upon a time, they anointed him, remember?
Yeah, that's true.
Just to recap the draft, we went in reverse order of the 11 backup quarterbacks. We took Trubisky at 10.
Who was
Aiden
11,
O'Connell
by
at
the way?
9.
I forgot.
Easton Stick was
Oh, yeah,
11.
Easton Stick.
Trubisky 10.
Poor
Aiden
Easton
O'Connell
Stick.
9.
Isn't that like
Josh
a
Dobbs
novel
8.
name?
Bailey Zappi 7.
A character in a
Zach
novel?
Wilson 6.
100%.
Tommy DeVito at 5. Will Levis at 4. Jake Browning at 3. Joe Flacco at 2. And Gardner Minshew at 1. And guys, we asked the YouTube
It's a
chat real
baseball
quick.
player's name.
How do we do with our
Easton Stick.
draft? Do you think we hit it pretty close or we're way off? 72% agree that we were pretty close. So shout out to us for.
Yeah, I was.
agree.
We
Jason and I were
almost had
both-
no controversy. Like,
No.
our controversy was 6 or
yeah.
5.
Yeah.
You know, there was, I think.
Nah, we were mostly on the same page. I think Jason was further down on Zach Wilson, but he makes a good point. I mean, the guy was a very high pick compared to most of those guys.
Yeah,
so.
when you take that into account, his
Yeah.
expectations
He's terrible.
were franchise-changing.
The biggest surprise for me is I thought you guys would definitely have Flacco 1, you two.
Yeah, no,
I
couldn't do it.
did too.
I couldn't
did
do it
too.
just because I've seen it twice.
Yeah.
I saw it twice with Josh Dobbs. And everybody was ready to say, oh, my God,
Yeah.
the Browns.
I
We
think
said it.
Minshew's the best backup quarterback in the NFL.
I think that's very fair to
Right?
say.
I mean, I know there's some
One
good
little
ones that
piece-
haven't played this year.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about it next week.
We'll come back.
Yeah.
We will
And
revisit.
really, the discussion, I don't think there's a discussion 3 through 11. Those guys are all interchangeable. They're just dudes. 1 and 2 to me, Flacco and Minshew, that's the 2 that I want to watch the rest of the season and see which guy.
Well, I do think Browning, Levis,
you're right
Browning,
on
Levis,
Browning.
and DeVito to some degree. I'm
Okay.
stretching it with DeVito.
So let's
but
do the top 5 then.
yeah,
next
I mean,
week.
certainly
We can do
those
top
guys
5.
I'm curious to see.
One nugget of breaking news: the Chargers just fired their entire coaching staff. So new staff.
I
They're
had
all out.
said,
We'll get to it.
I told my wife last night when we were watching the game, I said, by showtime tomorrow morning, the coach is gone.
Well, there's
GM's
West-
gone too.
It was West Coast,
Should
so
be.
9 a.m. They're all gone.
Did you guys see when they showed last night in the telecast the Raiders' first overall picks going back 10 years?
Oh, my God.
They've
It
been
looked
bad.
like
They've
it
been
looked
bad,
like
bad.
a phone book. It was like who? Who? Among them was Leatherwood.
In fairness,
Yeah.
the Browns
They
Browns
have-
have had plenty of stretches like that.
They have, but Bull mixed in with that
Yeah.
are guys like Myles Garrett.
Yeah, sure.
They didn't have a guy like that in there.
Their best draft pick in the last 10 years has been Colton Miller, who's a solid but not great left tackle. We got
And
to
they've
get
had
to the
good
mix.
picks too. 'cause
They've had top 5
typically
picks.
But if
multiple
you look
times.
at from like what Joe Hayden till Myles Garrett,
Oh,
it's
it was-
pretty ugly in between.
it looked Raider-esque. But when they
Yeah.
put that list on the screen last night,
Yeah, that was bad.
it was like, oh
They've
my
been
God,
awful.
what an indictment of their front office that
Yeah.
they were drafting that poorly for that long.
We got to get to the 5 McNugget stats you need to know this week, and these 5-pack of stats is brought to us by FanDuel, because even as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay red hot on FanDuel. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. We got 5. This is a quarterback-heavy stat pack. So let's start with this, though, and we're going to start with a little bit of the Browns' defense. The sack numbers have gone down a tiny bit over the last few weeks for the Cleveland Browns, but partly because they played quarterbacks who got the ball out of their hands very, very quickly. Against L.A., no sacks, 2 quarterback pressures. On the season, Stafford gets the ball out of his hands in 2.62 seconds. That's the 8th fastest time in the NFL. Against Jacksonville, Lawrence, he gets the ball out faster. He has the 4th fastest time to throw in the entire league. He got sacked 4 times. They all came when he held the ball for longer than 3 seconds. Now, why is that important? Justin Fields holds the ball longer than any quarterback in football.
Yes.
Partly because he's a scrambler. That's partly designed. But his 3.3 time to throw, that's seconds from snap to the release, is the dead last slowest in the NFL. He takes a ton of sacks because of that. And if you go back to 2021, the last time these two teams met, Myles Garrett sacked Justin Fields 4.5 times in arguably his best game of his career. So hold the ball at your own risk, Justin. because you got guys like Miles and Za'Darius coming down your throat.
Yeah,
That's a good stat. I like it.
it's a great stat. And that was one of those games for Myles Garrett where we were like, oh, my God.
Yeah. Just goes to show how good he can be when there's a quarterback that wants to stand back there and go through all of his reads and holds the ball that long. But I think there's a reason that I don't know if you can find this stat. I'd be curious to see opponents against which team, for all of their opponents combined, are getting rid of the ball quickest. And I would imagine that the Browns would be in the top 5 because they know that Myles Garrett's coming. And so part of Jacksonville's game plan was get the ball out of your hand.
Like they're quicker against the Browns than they are against other opponents.
And I don't know if you can find that. You probably can't. But, like, opponents against.
I never count out Mike, Jay. He finds everything.
Man, he digs deep.
All right, well, this next one.
This nickname should be Elias.
I mentioned it to you guys yesterday in the post-show meeting. But the Bears defense, pre-Montez Sweat and post-Montez Sweat, have been completely different units. And I got the numbers to show you side by side. They traded for Montez Sweat 5 weeks ago. Prior to acquiring Montez Sweat, the Bears had played 8 games. They were 28th in the league in points per game allowed, 27.3. 23rd in yards per game allowed with 341. 10 sacks, that was dead last. They forced 9 turnovers. That was 22nd in football. Since acquiring Montez Sweat, 5 games, they're 9th in points per game allowed. They're 5th in yards per allowed. They're 22nd in sacks. They're 2nd in turnovers. And maybe more importantly than anything for this game, pass yards per game allowed. Before the addition of Montez Sweat, they're allowing 263 pass yards per game, 30th in the NFL. Since getting Montez Sweat, 181 yards per game, 2nd in the NFL. This defense has been a completely different unit since acquiring Montez Sweat. They've also forced 3 turnovers in 3 straight games, the first time they've done that since 2018.
I knew you was coming with it.
That's a good one.
I knew you was. I told you.
I will say this, though. Now, they've played the Lions twice in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff, all of a sudden in the last month, has been turning the ball over. I don't know what's going on with him. And they shut him down and the Lions down this week. Full credit. The last time they played the Lions, even though Goff turned the ball over, the Lions still put up 31 on the Bears. So the other 3 games that this defense has been great against, the Vikings, the Panthers, and the Saints. Those are 3 really bad offenses.
Yeah.
And the Saints did score 24 points in that game anyway.
Good job out of Bull there to counter your stats.
So,
well, I wouldn't say the Browns have a
context
great
matters.
offense either.
All right,
So-
but I think it's better than the Saints, the Panthers, and the
I don't know, is it? I don't know.
Vikings.
and the Vikings.
My God,
Given,
Vikings
given
just
the
gave
injuries and where they're at,
Vikings
like,
just won a game by scoring 3 points.
Yeah.
Hey, you can only play on your schedule.
No, but of course
Yeah,
you
but
can only play.
I think that
but
both-
it
it's
plays a
important for
role.
context.
Yes.
It's context for the Bears being much better. Plus, part of the reason Sweat helped is because Ngakoue was their only good pass rusher. So now they had 2 good, solid pass rushers, and now they're back to 1 again.
Yeah, to me, this is the reverse of their Roquan Smith trade. I never understood that. I couldn't understand why they gave up on Smith. And their defense, pre-trade with Smith, was really, really good, and
Yeah.
it fell off the table.
Right.
And conversely, the Ravens' defense was sort of mid.
Yeah.
And when Smith came over, they became another dominant
They've been
defense.
great since then. They still are
so,
really
I
good
mean,
now.
It's almost like they undid the Roquan Smith trade with this.
And they traded a 2nd-round pick, which
I
is
know.
what they got
It's
back.
exactly
It was
what they got.
Essentially, they traded Roquan Smith for Montez.
It's like almost like the football god said, you screwed that one up, so we're going to give you this
I still
one.
don't like the trade for them because they could have signed him as a free agent in the offseason. I don't know.
Who?
The Bears.
Well, just goes to show you.
Well, but-
sometimes you get in the market early. So I'm gonna take care of look, we'll take care of that now. We're gonna trade for you. We're gonna give you a deal. We don't want to compete with nobody.
Yeah.
We're gonna go get our guy today.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have had to give up a 2nd-round pick to get him. If they were contending, I understood.
there's
but they
no
weren't.
guarantee you're going to get him, though,
Right.
as a free
Yeah,
agent.
that's the.
But the Bears had by far the most cap space.
Sometimes
So
money
yeah,
don't
it's
matter.
not a guarantee, but they paid him such an outrageous amount. They paid him as if he's Myles Garrett.
He did get a
He's
fat
not-
extension.
Got a big one.
A fat extension.
He's a good player. He ain't Myles Garrett.
Sometimes when you're a bad team and you don't have good players, you
gotta
oversign.
overpay.
You got to overpay.
You got to overpay.
All right, next one. How about blitzers beware? This was kind of interesting. So last week against Jacksonville, Joe Flacco against the blitz, we mentioned this earlier, was phenomenal.
Yeah.
75% completion. He was 9 of 12 for 182 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, a 156.3 passer rating.
What's
Oh,
perfect?
158.3. So
Oh, my
literally
God.
2 points underneath. Well, how about this? Justin Fields against the Lions last week. Also 75%. Threw for less yards, 1 touchdown.
Wow.
The exact same quarterback rating. No turnovers. Now, how does that play into this game? Chicago doesn't blitz a ton. 18th in the NFL. They blitz about 24% of the time, every 1 out of 4 plays. Cleveland a little higher at 13%. We're still not sure if Denzel Ward's a full go yet. They lost Ogba, won't play, so we'll see if Jim Schwartz dials up some more blitz. But against the blitz last week, Flacco and Fields were at their best. If you want to bring pressure, just be prepared.
Mike,
to
let me
go
just
on the back
correct.
end.
You said they're 13%. They're 13th, the Browns.
13th, yeah, with a
Yeah.
27.9%.
What that
don't
tells
think-
me is I don't think we're going to see a lot of blitzes Sunday from either team.
I don't think Jason don't buy it. He gave him
don't
the
you
like.
buy?
He gave him.
I was yawning.
Yeah,
I'm
he was
tired.
like, Jason. I actually
You
don't
lost,
even buy
you
it.
lost Jason.
No,
during that.
no.
I actually don't buy it either. He was like, man, look, that's a 2-week joint right there. Like okay, and a lot of it. Hey, let's be clear. You go back and watch that all 22. A lot of busted coverages in there. So they brought the all-out blitz. The guy slips and falls. Joe finds him. It wasn't like. It was like, oh, we're bringing blitzes and he moving in the
But
pocket.
also, and
Like
first
Mahomes.
of all, I love Mikey's stat pack. Don't make it sound like I'm over here falling asleep. He does an unbelievable job of this every week. But like you say, also, there's layers to this, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a difference in cover 0 and bringing 1 extra man.
Right.
Yeah, big
So,
difference. Yeah.
and we saw how a cover 0 can bust easily last week when the Jaguars brought a jailbreak blitz and Flacco picked it apart like that. So there's a difference in bringing 1 extra guy and bringing everybody. So
That's
it's
true.
just,
That's a good point.
Yeah, I just think when you say blitz,
Not all blitzes are created equal.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, just because you send 5, that does technically mean you're bringing the extra rusher.
You're bringing 1 extra.
By the
plus.
way,
When you bring 7, to me,
Right.
that's a full house blitz.
By the way,
What's
I
your
should,
percentage
I
against
should get
that?
I should get the hockey assist for that. I set Jason up for that. You see what happened? I didn't know the 5. I didn't come up with it, but Jason did. I just
Dished it off.
It's also, I like that nugget because they were both 75%, no turnovers in the exact same passer rating in the
Yeah.
same week. So the fact they're playing was more a little
I
bit
wouldn't
of
have
a.
guessed that Fields would have been that good against the blitz at any point.
I
so
wouldn't
far.
either. But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's surprising
But
to
he
me.
is good on his feet, so he is good at evading pressure.
He
so
is,
it
but
does
we've
make
seen
sense.
him a lot as he's leaving the pocket, but not yet committed to crossing the line of scrimmage, throw bad balls.
Yeah.
And so maybe this is another piece of evidence on the pile of his progression has been pretty nice this year.
Well, hold on. You're going to love this next one. You're going to love this next one. This is a Flacco and Justin Fields homage here. We'll start with Flacco. You guys have heard some of these before. I'm just going to reiterate. He's the first Browns quarterback with 3 30-plus yard touchdown passes and a half since Brian Sipe in 1980. He's the first quarterback for the Browns to throw for 300 yards since Jacoby Brissett last year against Buffalo. It's the first 300-yard, 3-touchdown game for the Browns in a win since Baker in 2020. And in 2 career starts with the Browns, he has more 250-yard, 2-touchdown games than any other Browns quarterback in the last 3 seasons. Justin Fields this year has a higher passer rating than Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. He has a better touchdown-interception ratio than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. He has more rush yards per game this year than Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson.
Wow.
And over his last 17 starts, now he's been hurt, over his last 17 starts, 3,000 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 1,237 rushing yards, and 8 rushing touchdowns.
Those are very impressive.
He's been
How many
better.
fumbles?
A lot.
Well, how many?
I just put a lot. Let me double check.
Many. The touchdown thing, the touchdown to interception thing with a quarterback like this, and this is what makes he and others in his category so special. I throw the rushing touchdowns on with the passing touchdowns. Those are
Right, but
touchdowns
that's
he's
why you got to
responsible
include the
for.
fumbles too.
You do.
Yeah.
I want to see the fumbles, but
Yeah.
like if it's in 17 games, if it's more than 5 fumbles, I'm that's a problem.
It's 9. He's lost 9.
Okay, yeah, that's not
He's
great.
lost 9, which means he's probably fumbled more than that.
Oh, how many just straight fumbles? 25.
Yeah, but now look, a lot of quarterbacks lose fumbles
clubbed.
on hits, but
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
lose the ball.
Not 25.
No, that's still inordinate.
So he's
Well, that
lost
means he's
9.
recovered 16. He's only lost 9 of the
Yeah,
25.
and that's the
Still.
number I'm going to ding him with.
So-
But 25 is inordinately high.
So how many total touchdowns and how many total turnovers, Mike?
So that would be
32?
25 passing and 8 rushing touchdowns.
So 33.
that's 33. And 11 interceptions and 9 lost fumbles,
20.
so 20 turnovers.
I mean,
So
for
that's
a
still
guy
pretty
who's
good.
yeah, that's not bad. I mean, that's a lot of turnovers, but it's also a lot
It
of
is, and
touchdowns.
what I like about that stat is I don't think you're going to completely eliminate that, but that is fixable. There are things that quarterbacks can do
Yeah.
to try to take care of the football. I'd be interested to know how many of those came when he was in the pocket and didn't see it, blindside, or how many came when he decided he was going to run the football.
Yeah. By the way, I wouldn't take him over any of the quarterbacks you mentioned in those stat groups.
I would not either.
Those are statistical blips this year for Allen and Mahomes. I mean, Allen has been turnover prone now 2 years running.
Yeah, but Allen's throwing the ball deep downfield.
That's gets us into our argument that we got into earlier this year about why Allen, for me, has fallen out of the top 5. I think the number one thing that we all look at is turnovers, and his number of turnovers the last 2 seasons are just too high. I know he counters that with a lot of downfield throws and touchdowns, but it's a give or a take.
I would say about Allen, and by the way, we all laughed when you said Purdy was better, and while
you ridiculed.
We ridiculed you.
Wrongly.
Rightfully so.
Well,
you backpedal.
No. Every team, listen.
Bull's going to.
Let me finish. No, I'm not going to backpedal, but I'm going to give you some credit.
It's going to be the MVP.
Every team in the NFL, I think, except for maybe the Niners, would still take Josh Allen over Brock Purdy. However, I thought Brock Purdy was, a decent quarterback, but he's even better than I thought he was.
Yeah.
And he's playing great. Now, he's got by far the best talent around him. It's not even close.
Yep.
But Josh Allen, and Mike even gave me this stat, a good chunk of his interceptions are like third and long plays where he's firing it down the field where they would punt anyway after that play.
Yeah, but I don't take away and I'm like, I still pick.
You got to factor it in.
But you're right. I mean, a lot of his picks are, and they're also balls that I've said to, why are you throwing that? I know it's third and long, it's desperation, but a punt is still better than a 40-yard pick.
But Brett Favre did a lot of that too, and that's he's got that kind of game. And
good comparison.
And Josh Allen is probably asked to do more than any other quarterback because he's asked to run a lot and he's asked to throw for 5,000 yards too. So.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, here's the last one. This one is my favorite, and this one kind of goes back to the backup quarterback. If he's hurt, you may be screwed, you may not. We'll find out. But 9 teams this season have 8 wins or more. Of those 9s, 8 have only used one quarterback.
Wow.
The Cleveland Browns are the only team this season with 8 or more wins that has used multiple. The other teams with 8 or more wins, San Francisco with Purdy, Dallas with Dak, Philadelphia with Hurts, Detroit with Jared Goff, Baltimore with Lamar, Tua in Miami, Mahomes, and Trevor Lawrence. Those teams have only used or started a game with one quarterback. The Cleveland Browns, the only team in the league
that is a phenomenal
with 8
stat.
or more wins that have 4. And all 4 quarterbacks have beat a team that's 500 or better. All 4 of the Browns, they have not beaten scrubs. Think about this. And there's more examples. Deshaun beat more than one team, but Deshaun beat Baltimore. Phillip Walker beat San Francisco. DTR beat Pittsburgh. Flacco beat Jacksonville. All 4 of their quarterbacks this season have beat a team that is above 500.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's a great stat. I wish I would have had that when I was making my argument for the importance of backup quarterbacks.
Now, there are some – now, in the end, the other 8 teams all have their starting quarterback, and that's a big part of the reason why they're succeeding.
Exactly. They haven't had to rely on garbage backup quarterbacks.
And there are a number of 7-win teams that have done it with backup quarterbacks, Mike, correct?
Well, the Bengals.
A high number, yes.
Bengals, Colts.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Steelers,
look at all the stands. The
Pittsburgh.
reason just about every team has used a backup quarterback. The 8 teams that haven't used a backup quarterback are in the top of the
Are there any bad teams that have not used a backup quarterback?
I can't think of one.
Any bad teams? Let me pull up.
Carolina.
Well, they used Andy Dalton for one game.
Dalton
Yeah,
played
they
one
did
game.
Dalton.
That's right.
If I was Stefanski's agent, I would run right to the front office and be like, I demand, this is what Mikey McNuggets said, I demand a new deal.
Well, the only bad team that hasn't used a backup quarterback, the Commanders, Jacoby Brissett. It's been Sam Howell
and they're
all
the
season.
team in the offseason that went out and spent for a backup quarterback.
I'm going to be useless for the next 38 minutes because Garrett Bush just said Stefanski should run to the front office and demand another contract.
Whoa.
Not
Did
only
y'all miss that?
He said he should
Let's go.
he
G.
should
Bush
use
is coming
McNuggets'
around.
stat.
Hey,
Wow.
man, hey, listen, I ain't that crazy. I mean, like, I negotiate like that's like that. You know, what am I gonna say about that? I can't say nothing.
Bush, here's what I love most about you. You've used this line a number of times, and you probably don't even realize it. But you've said something about if you don't take into account new information
Of course.
and change your opinion, you're stupid.
You're
Well, that's the
crazy.
biggest flaw in our society.
It
right now,
is.
that
It
people
is.
don't do that.
But that's a perfect example of it.
I mean, think about, though, If P.J. Walker played against the Niners 100 times, he'd probably lose 99.
I think you're right.
Yes.
I think you're
And
right.
he got the one victory out of 100.
I mean, P.J.
That's crazy.
The Niners right now are clearly the best team in football.
Right?
Right now they are.
And they lost to
They lost to P.J.
And
Walker.
not only that, you can make the argument that P.J. Walker sent that team into a tailspin because they
right.
lost the next two and didn't
Yeah.
look good.
They
You could
did.
argue
That's
that he
true.
beat the Colts and P.J. Walker should have beat the Seahawks.
Question, easy answer for me. P.J. Walker gets voted a share of the Super Bowl winnings, right?
Yes, he does.
Oh, yeah.
He's
I
back
mean,
on the team.
100%.
He's on the practice squad.
They
but-
invite,
But for me, he's like, yeah, equal share.
he's getting invited to Christmas party. Definitely company Christmas party, and it's on the 19th.
yeah.
We got some super chats to wrap up. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed those McNugget stats this week. We'll get them again next week. First super chat comes from Professor Chaos. Guys, we'll go around the horn, answer real quick. It's a one-word answer. Who's a better team right now, the Bears or the Jets? That question comes from Professor
Jets.
Chaos.
Bears.
I'm going to go with Jets because their defense is
Yeah, I'll say the Jets.
lights out.
I'll say
Yeah.
the Jets.
Good.
Their offensive line is so hideous, and their quarterback play has been so ridiculously up and down.
So 3 for the Jets. Rob Cunningham says, what was the last time an interim coach was hired as the full-time coach? I'm thinking of Antonio Pierce and a missed opportunity last year for Steve Wilkes.
Well, Hugh Jackson was in Oakland, right?
Freddie Kitchens?
Freddie, he wasn't the head
No,
coach.
he's never-
He was an
OC.
intern.
No, he was the head coach, but he wasn't the interim coach.
No,
He
no,
was
it was
offensive
never the
Greg
coordinator.
interim
Williams.
Yeah, it was Greg
But
Williams.
Then he beat Greg Williams out.
Right. I'm sure it's happened
Yeah, we probably
Nothing's
just not
coming to
thinking of it.
mind.
But Hugh Jackson, you are correct with the Raiders.
in Oakland.
That
But
was-
it's happened since then, I would think.
Antonio
Rob-
Pierce. Did you guys see his interview coming out of the second half?
He was like, keep your foot on the gas. I didn't
We're
see
gonna
it.
keep our foot on the pedal even harder.
Good at love it.
Bro,
love
it's
it.
49-0.
I don't
Love
care.
it.
Love
No,
it.
I love it too,
Yeah.
but you rarely see
But they
that.
didn't because they only scored 14 in the second half.
Yeah, but at some point when
Fail.
it got to 63, I think someone whispered in his ear, "We're running out of gas."
They lost last week 3-0. Score as many points as you can. Daryl Perryman says UCSS was lit last night at Caesars. Thanks to McNuggets, Jason, G, Bull, Tigers,
Lit.
Earl, Ant. Love you guys. Daryl, we appreciate you coming out. JDog66 says Flacco's a great backup and additional coach in the room. And JDog also said Flacco pay the man 2-year contract. He's a great backup with a wealth of knowledge in the quarterback room. That by itself is worth it.
We should have done a poll on that.
Well, we did a poll on should they give him a 2-year deal, and most people said yes.
Oh, I didn't know we did that.
we do a bunch of polls. We don't always read the results.
What
We do a bunch
what
of
were the
polls.
results on that?
We got
I don't remember the exact number, but it was high for yes, 2-year
Yeah.
deal.
And it could be prisoner of the moment too.
Right, he could throw 10 picks tomorrow, right? On Sunday. I doubt it if he does.
He won't
And none
get
of
to
us will
10.
sit here and say,
They'll pull him before 10.
"Yeah, 8 is his limit."
Could throw. I
Hello,
doubt it.
PJ. Hey, get your uniform on.
You're back, buddy.
They'll go to
I just got
Harrison
the
Bryant
phone call.
before they
Phillip,
go to PJ.
we need you, Phillip, one more time.
Man, I saw him. I seen him at Ace Hardware. He was in the lumber department.
I'm telling you, if Flacco's out, they're going to sign Brett Favre. Bring him back.
See you on Channel 3.
Now he can
Peace.
rip off. He can rip off people here instead of
Dang,
Louisiana.
you had to
where-
do that just to